Hey guys, it's Anthony with the On This channel again. On this, it's going to be close to the very end of our project here. We're going to test our harness. We're also going to add the O2 section of our harness that we need. So we'll be soldering in another pigtail harness. This harness will be for our O2s left and right. Also, I added a email address for the channel. It's ohmthis@gmail.com. This will let you guys get a little bit quicker access to me. I look at the comments, but sometimes without a little bit more information on questions, it's hard for me to answer all those questions. So if you have a question, email me, send me pictures, a video, whatever you need to add to it, and I will respond to those a little bit quicker than the comments. So without further ado, now remember, look at the descriptions. It'll give you some more information that we may need. If you don't have a drawing or you need another drawing or you're like, crap, where was that drawing? Short of going back and looking at another video, you can look at the descriptions. And with that, we're going to go on to it. On this one, you're going to need obviously soldering iron, solder, and you go ahead and make sure you have your tape and your Sharpie marker for labeling. We're also going to need a meter. If you don't have a meter, beg, borrow, and steal from somebody. Harbor Freight and other little stores, they have really inexpensive ones. Not saying they're the greatest, but for what we're doing, they will work just fine. In the meantime, if you have another question after this, we can test another way, and you may holler at me like, man, I really don't have a meter, don't have access to one. Is there any other way I can do my testing? So if that is indeed the case, reach out to me and we'll figure out another way. All right, YouTube, we're going to get splicing in our O2 sensors and making our O2 harness. What I did, because I didn't have the O2 harness from the factory, again, I put it in one of the comments of another video, is if you do, please keep it. But there's one important part that we need to talk about with the O2/transmission harness. Make sure that you're using the correct harness for the transmission that you're using. And here's why. So some computers that were made for specific transmissions. Let's say you have a computer for a manual transmission. It does not have components called diodes, and the diodes are kind of like a flow reducer or a stop or something to keep the current from backfeeding into them. And what will happen is if you use it on the wrong transmission, or the wrong harness, wrong harness, not transmission, it can backfeed into the computer and burn that circuit out of the computer. So you want to make sure if you have a manual transmission computer that you use a manual transmission harness, O2 and transmission harness. Again, if you use a automatic computer, you want to use an automatic harness. If you go and look online, and I'll send the link to where you can figure that out, is there's two different part numbers. I know I'm saying four, sorry. Two different part numbers for the different harnesses. We want to make sure that you're using the correct harness for your transmission. I'm sorry, for your computer. And I keep saying transmission because they're very, interconnected, and it can easily make a mistake that can cost you some big time problems. So I didn't have the harness like we talked about earlier, so we're gonna make my own harness, our own harness, excuse me. So what I did was I got some O2 harness extensions. It already has the factory ends. I'm going to show you these so you can see. It already has the factory ends. Yes, one's male and female. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it gives everything we need. It gives the connectors,
all the wiring, the correct type of wiring, the size of wiring, and a nice little heat shield too. So going back to our drawing, right? Let's look at, real quick, the color wires that we're going to use before we even break this down. So remember, our gray and yellow is our HEGO, or heated oxygen sensor. Okay, that's our power wire. Our HEGO ground is black with a white stripe. Our HEGO right signal, this is what's going to signal back to the computer. It is gray with a blue stripe. And then our left HEGO signal is it's red with a black stripe. There's another wire in here, and this is our neutral safety switch, neutral drive switch, and it's on pin 30. Right now, we're not gonna deal with this one. We're gonna just tie this back. I'm gonna take a piece of tape and I'm gonna pull it back. We wanna make sure that, it's not in our way. So, just give me 1 second here and I will do this one. Remember, I'm doing the tape where the sticky side is up and non-sticky side down. It's one of my little deals here. So, all right, so now that we're just dealing with these 4 wires, okay, we're gonna talk about which wires go on that. Now on these harnesses extension, I'm gonna show you, there's actually 4 wires on here. This is because it's a multi-year harness. The white wire, we don't care about. We're not gonna touch it, it's not a big deal. We'll just put it in our harness and be done with it. Our yellow, black, and red are what we're gonna look at. So if you're looking at the harness like this, and I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Now I want you to remember, this is the female side of the harness. And I'm not trying to be a little dirty or anything, but boys have outies and girls have innies. Female is the inside plug. Male would be the outside part of the plug. So the part of the plug that we're actually gonna cut is the male side. But I'm showing you this because it gives you the right profile for the plug. So if you're looking at it at the top, the square right here, okay, we're gonna use the wires to the top left. That is our ground. It's actually black on this side, which is nice because most of our grounds are gonna be black. Look at it again. The top right is our power, and it's red, which usually 12 volts in a car is red. And then our signal, which if you're looking again, square, is going to be the left bottom, and it's yellow. The white, we're not playing with. I want you to remember the plug, okay? The plug and where the plug wires and terminals are is most important to us. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and strip this off. We're gonna go ahead and take this off for now. We don't need that for now. So I'm gonna strip this off and then we'll get to splicing in our wires. All right, guys, I've gone ahead and done a couple things to help us out. One is, remember, female side, label which one is which. It's gonna make it much easier when we go ahead and do it. So this, your HEGO left, HEGO right, again, female part of the plug, and I've gone ahead and cut the male plug. What I did was I left about 3 inches of wire on the plug. So you never know if you might need it for any reason whatsoever. It's always good to have one of these in your toolbox at the racetrack, or you know, if you screwed up, you never know. You might screw up, and it's nice to have extra. So we'll take that off. So I debated whether I wanted to crimp or solder these connections. It's going to be in a harsh environment. It's going to be in an area where there's going to be road spray with the transmission. Um, and with a crimp connector, if it's not sealed, I always worry about corrosion getting down in there and making the wires a bad connection and whatnot. So I'm going to solder these. And granted, they could be in an area that's going to be really hot because it's obviously next to the exhaust. So what we want to make sure is that we cover these completely, and we're going to probably put like an aluminum type heat shield on it. There's like adhesive aluminum tape for HVAC, and it works perfect for shielding these from heat. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to splice both grounds. So get it, remember, our ground is the black. Our Hego ground here, it's black with our white. I'm going to go ahead and pull the tag off since we don't need that part of it anymore. And we're going to strip a good little section. Strip and strip a good little section. Now these new harnesses that I bought have a silicone insulation. They are made for extreme heat. Our main wire is the crosslink, which obviously does have a good heat resistance too. So we're going to be fine when it comes to the heat resistance of this area. I'm going to do the little twist here and make sure this heat shrink is going to fit. It's not, so I'm going to go with this red. I'm going to heat shrink each wire, and I'm going to heat shrink the entire bundle when I'm all said and done. So I'm going to go ahead and get that part of it ready. And the reason I'm doing this is, like I said, for the heat. Now the heat shrink I like to use, and I've said it before, is a marine style. It has a adhesive built into it, so it'll help with all of the corrosion potential that's going to be there. So I'm not going to be better off just putting this on. Well, hell, I'll tell you what, I should have thought about this before I bundled that. I'm going to take a second. Again, I'm going to have to slide this up the entire harness here, which I'm going to have to undo my labels, slide this on, and then put new labels back on. So everybody makes a mistake. If you'll give me a minute, I'll try to fix that. Okay, so we're going to do half and half. We're going to go ahead and split these half and half. I thought I had large enough heat shrink to do it, and not blaming my son, but I asked him to clean the shop, and I cannot find what I'm looking for. I'm sure that's never happened to anybody ever again. So again, how can I blame him? I didn't clean it. He's the one who did it. Should have done it myself. Anyways, all right, so I know you guys have watched it bunches and bunches and bunches of times, and I almost made another mistake, but bunches and bunches and bunches of time. If you want to watch, watch. If you don't want to watch, don't watch. But I'm gonna go ahead and make these connections. All right, so what I think I might do, let's go ahead and just make the connections. I'll solder all up and we'll be done with it at the end, right? So our power, remember again, was red on the O2 sensor side. And, excuse me. It's gray and yellow on the harness side. Yourself, like I said, about an inch when you do this. If you choose the splice versus solder these, you know, you're still gonna have a good harness. Just make sure that you protect it from the conditions. I mean, this may be in a Jeep, could be in a older Mustang, you may be doing a dragster, but you know, just know the conditions that you're going to be dealing with. The last thing you want to do is have to chase a gremlin because water got in an area and caused some corrosion, and you're just not getting a good signal. I know the signal wires, they're going to measure in either a resistance or a voltage, and if there's too much resistance here from corrosion, obviously resistance part is out. The voltage part will actually be out too, because when you have more resistance, it causes problems with the flow of current and your voltage drops. So if you're measuring voltage and that happens, what happens? It drops. All right, so the red with black is our left. Remember, that's our left, and we mark these, and there's our left. So we're going to trace that around, and I'm going to double check. Do I have my left? I have my left. It's all the way. There we go. Put me a little piece of heat shrink on it. Bind it up. And our right is going to be gray with blue. Yeah, I almost screwed up, guys. Look, gray with blue. I was going to put it on the... Dang, I need to wear glasses when I do this sometimes. I'm sorry. Gray with yellow. Double, triple, quadruple check. Gray, yellow stripe. That's our power. Don't rush. I don't know if I feel like I'm rushing or just making a mistake. It happens. No need to rush. We're not building a rocket. Obviously, we wouldn't be if we were. There's our signal wire that's going to go on our gray with blue. Like I said, double check. I'm also going to double check my harness, which is right, and that's going to be our signal gray and blue. Alright, before we go any further, I'm going to double check, and I think, you know, it would be bad if everybody else double checks while they're going through the harness and everything. So, gray with blue. That is our right HEGO signal. So, follow it around. And that's going to be our yellow on this harness. That is our right HEGO. So we're good to go. Our left HEGO, here's our left HEGO yellow. Goes around to our red and black. And we are good there. Both of our reds off of the HEGO side, our power, is going to go to gray and yellow. So we have that. And then our grounds on the HEGO side, black, go to our HEGO ground, black with white. So I'm going to go ahead and stop and solder these up and heat shrink them down, and then we'll be right back. Alright guys, so I've done all my soldering and heat shrinking, and my 2 white wires, I went ahead, I didn't strip the wires, just left them cut the way they were, but I went ahead and put a piece of heat shrink on it, and I left a little off the end. That way, no matter if there is some type of electrical current, voltage, anything put on that wire, it can't short itself out. I mean, we don't want any shorts or anything affecting the computer or the way this harness works. So we're going to go ahead and protect ends like that. Now, I know we talked a little bit about, well, I went into great detail, excuse me, about the transmission harness. The NDS 30, the neutral safety switch wire, whatnot. When we do our testing, we'll address that then. Remember, we put the extra relay in our harness. Now that was what I did because that's the way that I designed mine. You could design it multiple different ways. I won't tell you how to design your harness. I won't tell you how to do your start circuits and everything, because you could be doing something that has no bearing on this. It may not even have this circuit or need that circuit in your vehicle. I think just for safety, you need some type of neutral safety device to keep it from moving, whether it be forward, reverse, when you start the engine. So you could ground this and the engine's gonna run for the most part. So what we're gonna do next, I'm gonna have to show you all a couple things. I actually have an engine that we're gonna run this on, and I'm going to lay the harness out and show you guys roughly how it's gonna be. Then we're going to test our harness without power. In some of the earlier videos, we use an electrical meter and we use the continuity setting where we beeped it, made it go boop, boop, boop when we touched our wires and connectors together. We're gonna go through that and systematically go, does this and this, does this and this, this and this. And it's boring, but it's gonna save your butt if there's any mistakes. And we may find some on this one, I don't know. I got my fingers crossed that it's gonna work out. YouTube, here is the engine that we have to run. It is a 302, it is the 5.0. Mine, I think it's seen better days, but it's got great compression, no crappy oil sludge or anything in it. I think it's gonna be a good runner. We're gonna have to clean some of the injectors and go through a couple of things like distributor and whatnot, but it's gonna work. It everything that we need. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set the harness. If you can't hardly see, I've got a chair back here. We're gonna emulate that as our firewall, okay? Now again, this is the front of our engine. This is the back of our engine. All right? So I'm gonna set the harness up. Back of the engine, here's our 60 pin plug. It's kind of hard to see, but here's our grommet for the firewall. Our salt and pepper shakers, these go to the back of the engine. Here's what we just worked on. Here's our O2 sensors and our mass air.
Usually the mass hair is gonna run on this side. It can run on this side. This is a ubiquitous intake. It can be swapped this way or this way, doesn't matter. So I wanna make sure, I like to put the grommet about square in the back, and that will give you more than enough room that you need. I'm gonna lay it all straight ahead so we can go through it. There's our power wire. In a Mustang, battery is where? See what I mean? We got plenty to go over this side, it doesn't matter. We're gonna leave it straight. So we know our Higo is gonna go back. See how much room I have on this? If you need to make it longer, shorter, splice your wires how you need to. We're building this as you know, it can go into anything. We may have to take and bind our harness like this when we finish it up to make it shorter. Leave it to where our mass hair can go over here, there. All right, salt and pepper shakers can go in the back. Here is our map sensor. That's usually up on the firewall of a Mustang. Again, it can go anywhere with this. Want to make our connections here, what I want to show. Here's our distributor, TFI. You can see it can go right here. Our ground over to the battery. To our tack. We're gonna leave it right here, but it can go back through the harness to our tack. Our coil, typically on a Mustang, it's off to the side over here. Some people buy them where they can put them here. They can mount them anywhere they want to. I'm just showing you how it's gonna sit up on the engine, right? We're gonna go through this. We'll get all of our stuff together. But you can see how it's laid out now. Now, there's one thing that another video shows or talks about is getting rid of the salt and paper checkers connectors. That's completely up to you. If you want to, now the harness, the engine harness that sits on top of this engine, these connectors are back here. And if you have room for them, Ford didn't design these and they didn't last for hundreds of thousands of miles if they weren't a good connector. If you just don't like them, splice them color to color. We're not gonna do that in these videos. So now that you can see roughly how they lay out, we're gonna go ahead and set our table back up, and we're gonna sit down with our meter, and we're gonna show power on this, power on that. One thing I'm going to tell you is do not connect your computer to your 60 pin until you've gone through and tested the harness to make sure you don't have any little short to ground. Anything, if let's say one little tiny little sprig of your ground is poking through one of your pieces of insulation, the potential for disaster with your computer is pretty high. So we don't want to take any chances with tearing up our computer. We're going to really go through here and really think and test our harness. So I hope you can kind of see how it lays out and how it can go in your car. Like again, this is your firewall back here. This is your transmission. This is the front of our engine, right? You remember how we were talking about having an electric fan and how I ran a bigger wire for that? You can easily see how I could run one wire up here to connect to my fan. It's hard to tell, but here's our water temperature sensor. See how easy it would be if we wanted to tie into that one. Run one wire back into our gauge cluster, be done. The oil pressure is up underneath here. It's literally right here where my finger's pointing. One wire comes, follows that, Again, easy peasy. You can customize this and do anything you want to with it. Anything at all. Just think about ahead of time how you want to do it.